Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome to the very first show this season of the Bold Unstoppable Show. I have a panel of women with me this evening or this afternoon, depending on where you're at, and we are talking about our bodies, our power. The theme this evening is women's health care, reproductive rights, and bodily autonomy. And so I'm Dr. Rochelle Marie Lawson, the Queen of Feeling Fabulous, and I'm going to just say hello, my fierce, fabulous, and unapologetic queens and kings that might be listening to us. Welcome to a powerful, fire-stirring episode of the Bold Unstoppable Show. Now, I'm your host, Dr. Rochelle Marie Lawson, the Queen of Feeling Fabulous, and today we're stepping into one of the most urgent, emotional, and deeply personal issues of our time, our bodies and our power as women. I want to keep it real. And I want to say right now, we're living in a moment where our rights, reproductive rights, as well as just our general rights, are being debated in courtrooms. Our pain is being dismissed in examining rooms, and our lives, especially the lives of people of color here in the US and around the world, are at a higher risk, particularly when it comes to problems in the maternity ward and medical systems that were not built with us in mind. From birth control to childbirth, from fibroids to fertility, from abortion to access and getting care when we're in menopausal states, and everything in between, women are still having to beg to be believed, to be taken seriously, and to have agency over our own bodies. Now, today's conversations is not about being polite. It's really about being honest and coming from a point where we feel what's inside of us that we want to get out, that we want to share with the world and those that are watching, listening to us when it comes to how we feel about our bodies and the power we have with our bodies as women. So my queens, if you've ever walked out of a doctor's office feeling unheard, misdiagnosed, or invisible, this episode of the Bold Unstoppable Show is for you. If you've ever felt the weight of the laws and the policies pressing against your right to choose to what you do with your body, inside, outside, this episode is for you. So take a breath, grab your favorite beverage. Today I'm drinking just a bottle of water. Grab a tissue, you might need it, because today we are talking about our bodies, our lives, and the power that no one should ever have, and no one should ever have to take away the rights of what we do with who we are and our bodies. So right now, I want to just introduce the panels or have a panelist introduce themselves. And we're going to start with Caren. Caren, tell us who you are, what you're doing, where you're from.
So I am from just outside of Stratford, Ontario in Canada, and I'm an intuitive momentum coach. And what is that? Well, what I am is I am a certified personal trainer and I'm a spiritual life coach. But what I really noticed with myself and with the people that I get to work with and people that I talk to is momentum and how momentum is felt when we become present in our own bodies and are able to take steps towards our own health. I'm happy to be here. This is an important topic.
Very nice to have you, Caren, all the way from the Ontario area in Canada. We're representing the North American continent. All right, Ashley, tell us where you're from and who you are and what you do.
Yes, my name is Ashley. I am in Ohio, and I'm the host of the Black Sheep Christian, which is really a podcast really about trying to get back to what God has really intended. The Christian religion has really been hijacked, especially in these last years. This is a great subject to talk about, so I'm blessed and honored to be here because there are some things that is going on with women that I don't think God really intended for it to happen for us.
Well, welcome to the show, Ashley, and we're going to move on to Kerry. Kerry, tell us who you are, where you're from, what you do.
I'm from Ventura, California. I'm a mother, shaman, and author. Last year I published my first book, My Inner Heroine, Exploring Feminine Pain. I share my story of how I went from a suicide attempt to embracing my shamanic gifts to experiencing enlightenment several times, all within the span of about 5 years. And I attracted several very interesting men into my life who mirrored my wounds back to me, and they include Justin Waller and his best friend, Andrew Tate. Yes, Andrew Tate. And so all leading me back to my guy from childhood who's former FBI. So I gained a lot of wisdom in my healing journey. And so I'm here today to talk about that.
Lovely. Thank you, Kerry, for joining us tonight. And Jasmin, tell us who you are. Where you're from.
Yes, my name is Jasmin Dennis. Thank you for having me, Jasmin Dennis. And you're from Toronto, Canada. I'm a health and wellness strategist, leadership and development specialist, and a certified herbalist. I create and implement comprehensive health and wellness program in the workplace. I just spoke to an educator today, so also in schools. And basically what I focus my attention on is making sure that we identify our feelings. Don't be apologetic about your feelings. Let it be known and take care of yourself.
Love it. Love it. So there you have it. These are our panelists tonight, and we're going to dive right into the show's topic. So my very first question, ladies, first of all, thank you for joining us. I appreciate you giving us time out of your day to be here with us to talk about this very important topic and issue facing women, not just in North America, but around the world. So let's start at the core. Can any of you share a moment when you felt your body or your health was not taken seriously by the medical system? And the second part of that question is, what did that experience awaken in you? So who, if you have, who would like to take on that question?
Yeah.
Kerry, please go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I have a question about how I didn't value my own femininity and how the world mirrored that back to me. When I gave birth to my second child, my oldest child was 2.5. I was working full time and we had financial struggles. So I went back to work when she was 3 weeks old, and that was January. And the next week I got very sick and I went to the doctor. And I was nursing and I had my infant there and I had a high fever. And I mean, I was like, had never been so sick. And the doctor didn't know really what to do with me, didn't know how to prescribe medication for a nursing mother. And he's like, well, I don't hear anything in your lungs, even though I told him it was so painful. It felt like an elephant was sitting on my chest. And so he sent me home with cough medicine with codeine, covering up the bacterial pneumonia that was taking over my body. But I didn't advocate for myself. You know, I could blame the system that the system didn't show up for me. And yeah, he had his problems. He was a young doctor. But really, when it boiled down to it, I didn't advocate for myself because I had suppressed my voice from my childhood trauma. I went on.
I love you. I'm not trying to cut you off, but that part right there, you didn't advocate for yourself.
Yeah.
It's important, women, if you're looking at us, hearing us, listening to us, viewing us, it's very important that you advocate for yourself. I can speak from experience. I am a registered nurse, going on my 36th year of being a licensed RN in multiple states, background emergency room trauma and flight nursing. And when my patients, my female patients would come in with issues and they kept their voice quiet, when I was in clinical practice, well, I was the chick that you can't keep your voice quiet. You know, if something's not right, if you don't understand, I'm not letting that physician go. I'm not letting you go until you understand exactly what's going on with you. And if you're not feeling that your care was adequate, let me get somebody else to take a look at your case. But so often as women, we've been told to be silent, not speak up, even when it matters about our health and well-being. So ladies out there, listen to what Kerry just said. She went into the doctor with what she was not feeling with, and she ended up being prescribed medications to suppress symptoms, but not take care of the issue because she had a bacterial pneumonia. Now, did they ever do a chest x-ray on you, Kerry?
Well, 2 days later, I was admitted to ICU with pneumococcal sepsis. And the next day I was intubated for 2 weeks and 5 days on 100% oxygen.
Wow.
So I realized that, you know,
ladies listening to us right now, what is one very key, very pointed, direct message you want to share with the ladies listening to us and viewing us right now about this?
Yeah, self-care is of utmost importance. When I realized during my healing journey that I put the community and all others before me, and I always put myself last, then I, almost died at least twice in my life.
Wow. 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 Powerful opening. We've got to take a quick break, but we'll be right back to the Bold Unstoppable Show to talk more about her story, our power, and our health and well-being. Stay tuned. We'll be right back in just a few moments. All righty, welcome back to the Bold Unstoppable Show. I have these phenomenal panelists with me today, and we're talking about speaking up, making sure you take care of yourself first so that you are available to take care of those you love and care about. Do not be afraid to ask questions of your healthcare provider. If you don't have the answers that you need to take good care of yourself when you go in, whether it's for a regular checkup or something more serious, make sure you do not let that physician leave the room without you understanding completely what's going on with you. And if they can't answer your questions or don't want to ask for somebody else to come in to help you understand what you need to do to make sure you take good care of yourself. Okay, and specifically speaking to the women, because we tend to be silent and quiet, and your body is something that you should not be silent and quiet about. Okay, my next question, ladies, is how have the recent changes in reproductive rights and healthcare laws impacted you personally, emotionally, or in the decisions you make for the care of your family and your life? Let's start with you, Ashley.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Excellent question, because I just had my yearly appointment where I talked to my OBGYN about this. And really, for me, it's about birth control. This is a very interesting, because I'm at the stage in my life where unfortunately children is expensive. I was blessed to have children, but unfortunately, I cannot afford any more children. So when it comes to birth control, that is a topic that me and my doctor have talked about, because there are different forms, and these different forms can affect us quite differently. Talking to my friends, how they use, they don't use the pill, they use the arm, or I can't even think of the term anymore.
Please.
And yep, and how they went through it. And it's interesting because, like, oh yeah, I'm interested in that, but then again, because it's the fear of it's going to be gone and we won't have it, right? Like that's the fear. And
Right.
so even with that method, doctors are now understanding that women are going through, when they do have that, that's painful for them. And doctors are now starting to recognize, to be able to give medication in order to go through that, to explain things. So that is a very interesting topic to even have. And then I'm also thinking about, my daughters as well, because there's the HPV virus. And there's fear mongering against that. Like, it's supposed to prevent cancer. Why should I not get something to protect us from cancer? So there's a lot of conversations, a lot of feelings to go through, because it's like this fear of it can be taken away, but I want to protect myself. But, it's not like I can have an abortion, even if you're for or against that. So the options are just like, the bubble is just so small. And also where I am at, I do have access to OBGYN, but I have had 3 leave from the practice. One retired, one went to another state, and another went to another state. So there's this like movement and exodus that is going on within the community.
So with regards to, the medical community, particularly for women, we have, guys, they have phases of life, but I think we go through it just a little bit more challenging, just because we're the container for life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so because we're the container, we have things that need to be addressed a little bit. We have more things that need to be addressed, basically, in order for us to stay healthy and well. When this issue first came up prior to the elections here in the United States, I had some physicians on where, and it wasn't directly like this, what we're talking about, but the whole access to healthcare came up. And the physicians were so upset. One was a neonatologist, and another one was an obstetrician, OBGYN, a gynecologist obstetrician. And they were really upset because they were feeling that they're being put in a place to not be able to take the best care of their patients, and potentially putting their patients and their patients' children's lives at harm's way. So it's a very interesting didactic. My question always is, with regards to women, why are we allowing another gender to decide what we do with our body? Okay.
Oh,
Number one question. Number two is that gender will not let us decide anything to do with their bodies. Otherwise, all those enhancement medications that allow them to procreate when they're way too old to be doing that, you know what I mean? I'm pretty sure we would eliminate that as well. So it's very interesting to me that this dialogue is not going on more among women, because we are basically allowing ourselves to go back hundreds of years, maybe thousands of years, to allow someone else to dictate to us what we do with our body, how we do it, where we do it, when we do it. And so I'm glad you brought that up, because as you can tell, I'm very passionate about no one should tell anybody, male, female, what they should do with their body. It should be the decision of that individual and that individual alone. Okay, so let's get Jasmine's. Jasmine, let's hear your, what do you say about the question with regards to what we're discussing when it comes to the decisions with regards to the healthcare laws? I'm not sure how it is up in Canada, but I know here in the United States, it's impacting us personally, emotionally, in the decisions we make about how we take care of our bodies. And how is that rolling out for you, Jasmine, up in Canada?
Well, it's this healthcare is universal. And for me, I was involved in building a chain of wellness centers. So I was fierce, and I was going to do what the guys do. And I was going to put on hard hats, and I was going to put on, steel toe boots, in a situation like that. But I was a young bride at one point, and I wanted to have babies as well. And I remember, because I wanted to prove myself so much that I'm capable of doing what the other gender, I'm going to take a word from you, is able to do. I didn't know the word burnout then, but I figured I was crying every 2 minutes. If something went wrong on the site, I would cry. I was thinking of literally putting off, having babies. And I went to my doctor at the time, and I said, something is going on with me. I said, I feel like my biological clock is running. I feel like I'm just off, but I have this responsibility. The other partner was motivated by money. He wants to get him done as fast as possible. I was motivated that I can do as do and just be successful. So what I would point out in this discussion is that women take on a lot, and we allow others without knowingly decides our fate for us. I did get pregnant, and I taught my class, you understand, right up until it was almost time for delivery. And I think what I was trying to prove is that, you didn't want me to get pregnant, but here I'm pregnant and I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. So my caution is to females when they go into their doctor, and the doctor at one point says, well, maybe you should take a few years off, and just be a wife for a few years. Now, that was a bad word to me. Yeah, I was a wife, but you don't, you don't tell me to stay home and be a wife, and what does that entail? So my point is that I stress well-being pointedly, the things that happen and that allow them to be emotionally burnt and spent. When you go to your doctor's office, listen to your.
So let me ask you this. So with regards to the question that I brought up was, how have these recent changes that are happening throughout the United States with regards to what's being tried to implement in with regards to limiting access to women to take care of their bodies however they want to, Is that happening in Canada? Yes or
Well,
no?
no, not to that extent, but you will
Okay.
have, because it's
So,
because
so you guys have a little bit of a different scenario than what we're experiencing down here in the U.S.
Yeah.
It's just challenging. We need to take a quick break, but we'll be right back to the Bold Unstoppable Show and continue our conversation. Stay tuned. We'll be right back in just a few moments. Okay, welcome back to the Bold Unstoppable Show. I'm here with a fabulous panel of ladies, Caren, Ashley, Kerry, and Jasmin, and we're having this discussion about, women and our bodies, our power, women's healthcare, reproductive rights, and bodily autonomy. Now, the next question I have, ladies, is with regards to mortality rates, particularly maternal mortality rates, which are still very high when it comes to the brown and Black communities. Why do you think our lives are treated more disposable? And what truths do we need to name out loud about how we're being basically discounted with regards to our lives mattering? Caren, would you like to take that question?
I will. I mean, I'm speaking from I want to really make it clear that no matter where we live, no matter our race, when one thing happens to one person, it happens to all of us. This ripples out everywhere in our lineage, everywhere and beyond. And we see it too in Canada. I'm from Northwestern Ontario, where we have a high number of an Indigenous population, and we see it there too. It's not, it is. Is it a lack of resources? Is it a lack of knowledge? Is it, what is it? In conversations, more conversations like this are what's important to help bring this to the awareness. And, and just, sitting and, blaming anybody doesn't help anything. But what can we do knowing what we know? And women, as women, we carry a lot of weight of even just knowing this shit. What are we going to do with it? This is where momentum comes in. So we know all this stuff, and over time it becomes less wisdom and more weight. Let's do something about it. So conversations like this to bring this to light in the communities that this is prevalent in. Is it resources? Is it lack of staffing? The staff are under stress too. There's, and again, it just trickles throughout populations, throughout communities, throughout countries, throughout the world.
Right.
So speaking from my own lens, I wish I had the answers, but what I want to make it clear that this isn't like this. When it affects one, it affects all.
Absolutely.
I agree. Thank you, Caren, for sharing that. It's not a one answer. It's not a one size fits all answer, because we all have different things that we, that come upon us with regards to our health and well-being. And we have different aspects within our lives where we're influenced, whether it's our grandmother or mother, particularly like African Americans or African people of African descent. We have a lot of, I want to say generational wisdom that gets passed on from grandmother, great grandmother, so on and so on. And I'm sure it's in other communities as well. But I think because we women have fought so long and so hard to be able to just do what we want to do with our bodies, okay? It's pivotal that we don't give up the fight. We can agree, we can disagree, we can agree on different points and disagree on others, but the whole point of this conversation is no one should be dictating to you or me what we should do with our body, our choices, whether it's reproductive rights or having that heart surgery, or like me, I had to have a shoulder surgery or multiple hand surgeries. My man wasn't telling me what I'm going to do with my body. Step back. This is me. Just like I can't tell them what to do with their body. But our rights to do and dictate what we do with our bodies should not be taken away from us. And more conversation and dialogue like this needs to happen, not just here in North America, but around the world, because I guarantee you there are other women that are feeling exactly like we're feeling. And whatever happens in the United States, around the world. I'm just saying, women in the US, you better pay attention. Okay, so next question, ladies, is shame or silence around topics like abortion, miscarriage, infertility, menopause affected women's ability to get the care that they need? So I can speak on this, but I want to ask Kerry, why don't you give us your insights on that particular question as to, how has shame or silence around these topics of abortion, miscarriage, infertility, menopause affected our ability to get the type of care we need?
Well, that's a challenging question because I know that personally, I wasn't able to use my voice when I was insecure. When my voice box was disconnected from my womb and my vagus nerve was just shut down from my childhood trauma. I mean, I had it bad in my childhood. So what can we do on all those topics is really teach women how to love themselves and naturally bring out their voice so that when they're, so they feel empowered to do the research before they go in the office and be prepared with questions and then be prepared to, ask those questions and hold their ground. And that will only happen when women find value inside of themselves. I mean, that was my whole healing journey was learning how to love myself and seeing the difference between when I fully hated myself and I had no voice, and then I fully loved myself and all these amazing things happened to me. So I think that it's a journey of healing from childhood trauma is the main one.
I love that. Ladies, don't be afraid to use your voice.
Yeah.
I know we've all had things that we've gone through. I've had some childhood traumas too. And, and it shows up in everybody differently, right? Some people don't speak up. Some people are afraid. They've spoken up in the past and they've been slapped down so much that now they don't want to speak up. Others don't know how to find the voice to speak up. And so collectively, if we come together, we can voice our needs and what we desire for our health and well-being collectively. It might be, I might desire just to be able to go to the doctor when I want to. Kerry might desire to be able to get, that prescription for dandelion leaf, or, you know what I'm saying? Ashley might desire to be able to educate her children about reproductive care for themselves, male, female. It's coming together and being able to express our desires, not hide our voice. And don't be ashamed to ask questions, even if you think they're shameful or they're not good questions. Never be ashamed, because in the question and in what you're afraid to ask comes a lot of healing, wisdom, and knowledge that you don't access if you're not able to ask and are afraid to ask those questions. And if you can't ask it directly, get a piece of paper and write it down and give it to the primary healthcare provider or your healthcare provider or your friend or someone close to you, and ask them to ask that question. That way you still are able to protect yourself and your wounds, but you're able to get the question answered and the healing you need. That's very, very important. So, ladies, when it comes to breaking these barriers, whether it's financial, cultural, religious, or systemic, do you see women coming together in an effort to allow us to step into our grace to make decisions about our own bodies when it comes to these financial, cultural, religious, or systemic barriers? We've got to take a quick break, but we'll come back and we'll have the ladies dialogue about that question in just a few moments. Stay tuned to the Bold Unstoppable Show. We'll be right back in just a few moments. Okay, welcome back to the Bold Unstoppable Show. It's Dr. Rochelle Marie Lawson. And before we took that quick little break, Caren raised her hand. Caren, go ahead.
Yeah, and I think it's again, we're seeing where maybe we've been giving our power away just as humanity, as women, and unity is among us. It's coming, but I think it starts individually before we come together collectively, and we are. It comes down to, okay, individually, and just kind of branching off of what Kerry said is where she was mentioning self-care, compassion, self-awareness before anything. And it's okay if you don't know what you need, if you simply just don't know, to be able to be self-aware enough to ask yourself what you need and make slow, imperfect steps. My experience with healthcare, some was great, and it saved my life and the life of my family on several occasions, and I am forever grateful of that.
Yeah.
The other side of the coin showed me exactly where I was abandoning myself. It wasn't that. It wasn't them. It showed me what I needed to see to slowly and imperfectly become what I actually needed myself. And then now coming together with beautiful women like you guys, can we go and share and have these conversations? So it's, again, bringing our own harmony into these systems that exist already, rather than starting all over again, you know?
Yeah, nice. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's, again, powerful wisdom and information. And we need, once we begin to embrace this and really absorb the energy from our conversation, it will spread. And I think ladies will be coming more on board with regards to, you know, taking command and allowing themselves to be the only person in charge of their bodies. I will share this. If you are afraid of something happening to you and you won't be able to make certain decisions for whatever, you could slip into a coma for a few days. You know, you can be intubated like Kerry. You can't speak when you're intubated. You can see and you can look around sometimes if you're not heavily sedated, but for the most part, you can hear everything. That's the people, you know, even dying people, the last thing they say is, don't watch what you say in a room of somebody that's dying, because the hearing is the last thing to go. Now, I don't know how they know that. If somebody died and came back and said, I heard everything y'all said. But even as a nursing student, all back in the 80s, that was something that we were told. And I've seen a lot of people die, and, you know, that I was trying to take care of for various reasons. But write it down. Write it down. Designate somebody, whether it's your kid, your mama, your daddy, auntie, uncle, best friend, whatever. Write it down. If you're incapacitated and can't make decisions about your health care, write it down so that you leave your family with something that they can go that honors your wishes, versus having them to have to make that hard decision. Do we let her die and keep the baby? Or do we have, you know, we save her and let the baby die? You know, that kind of stuff. So food for thought and lots of words of wisdoms. Okay, so ladies, I want to stay on this question with regards to the barriers. I want to ask each and every one of you this question, but I want each and every one of you to take a different aspect, whether it's financial, cultural, religious, or systemic. How do you see us facing and breaking down these barriers? And so I'm going to start with you, Ashley. When it comes to breaking down the barriers that prevent us, you know, from accessing care, such as financial, cultural, religious, or systemic, how do we come to be able to make these decisions about our own bodies and not let these barriers circumvent us taking good care of ourselves? So Ashley, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think one barrier is just seeing the humanity. I think once empathy, grace, mercy, understanding comes into place, I think everything else will just fall into place. I think one important thing is for us to love ourselves and each other, because love just breaks everything and brings light to where it should be.
Love it. Okay, Jasmine, what are your thoughts about the cultural barriers?
Well, to me, the cultural barriers, I think, in our culture, you know, Jamaican parentage, there's always a shame around money. So they would rather not speak up about getting the type of help they want because of the financial barriers. So my one point is tonight is to say, you know, remove the shame, humble yourself, and take that step. I have a group of women around me that, you know, of different, you know, one is Italian, one is Black, but they you grab a little bit from everyone and then you attach it to your culture. And I basically says, if they can do it, I can do it too. So I would just love people to remove the shame of finances so that they can be good to themselves, they can take care of themselves, and they can help others in the process.
Love it. Kerry, what are your thoughts about removing the barriers of
Well,
financial society?
what I realized through all of my healing work and such is that the only barriers I run into outside of myself are a projection from my internal barriers. This is why we live in a holographic universe. The universe is a mirror, right? So if I run into a barrier out here, I got to go in here, do the work, and then realign. Those external barriers signal misalignment internally. And so it's a redirect back to self for me.
Love it. The external barriers really is a reflection of what's going on internally. Even if you faking it and people think you making it and doing it all well, you get those barriers, and then you have to really, really go back and say, okay, what's going on with me? If you're wise enough, you know what I mean? There's so many people that don't, they still will deflect it outwards, not knowing that it really is a mirror looking back at them, reflecting what's going on inside. So I love, love, love that. Okay, ladies. So my next question is, have you ever had to have an advocate, or have you ever had to be an advocate fiercely for yourself or a loved one in a medical setting? What did that look like? And what did it cost you mentally and emotionally? Caren, let's start with you.
If I would have known what I know now, then I would have advocated for myself. I didn't. But now looking back, I am advocating for that version of myself who isn't abandoned by the healthcare system, who is given more knowledge, who asks for more knowledge. I was just I would look for quick fixes and gave my power away. There was no advocating for myself, but there certainly is now, and it's not too late to do that.
Let me ask you this question, take a little bit further for those ladies out there that can relate to what you just shared. How do you find the light to begin to advocate for yourself in medical situations and in life?
When I became so aware of the power of my own body, it's hard not to. Before any autonomy now, self-awareness happened. And I am so aware now of what my body needs, what feels good, what doesn't feel good, that I have a really just a strong, how important feeling is, like what Jasmin was saying, and feeling happens in the body and how important that is, and how I saw my body heal and regenerate itself, and how now everything that was happening up here is just all connected into the body, and how magical that becomes. I can't imagine not ever advocating for this again. It has been the most powerful piece of equipment and technology that you will ever have.
Love it. See, that's about taking your power and using it for the good of yourself, and not being selfish and not really caring if you are selfish, because you are the most important person in your world, and sometimes to those that you love and care about. Love that. Love that. Okay, so my next question is with regards to, I'm going to stay on advocating. Ashley, what about advocating? What are your thoughts with regards to the advocating?
Yes, in regards to advocating is highly, highly, highly important. And I say that because I lost my grandmother because she didn't advocate for herself. She passed of breast cancer. And at the time, my grandfather was in the military. So things were different then, especially in the 50s and 60s. Things were just different at that time. And because of that, she just lost her battle because it wasn't detected sooner. So, and it affected, the family. So, and then here I am talking about it, wishing that I, from what I've heard, she was an incredible woman who went through some significant challenges at the time with her being an African American woman. And it's sad because that's info, that's knowledge, that just isn't getting passed down. So I know the damages of not being able to act, to advocate for yourself.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. I think all too often in various communities, and I can only speak of, African American and Sicilian communities, but so often we're told not to talk about things and to keep it in the family. And I can share a quick story. My maternal grandmother, had leukemia. She was dying of leukemia. I'm a nurse. In my 20s, I'm a nurse. And I'm the only granddaughter on both sides of my family, and I look just like my maternal grandmother. And so here I am, a nurse. I was noticing the signs and symptoms. When I would ask her questions, she wouldn't answer me because she would say, oh, it's private, or, that particular generation, they kept these personal and private things to themselves, like you're talking about, Ashley. And so often, because they do that, they're not able to access or get to the help they need that could potentially save their lives. So my grandmother died. She was holding my son, who was 4 months old at the time, and was crumping basically. And that evening went to the hospital, never came home, and ended up dying 6 days later from this leukemia that she had been suffering with, but never wanted to share with me, her beloved granddaughter, knowing I was a nurse and could have advocated for different types of healthcare treatment for her. And her mother did the same thing, died of uterine cancer in the 40s, but it was not, you didn't talk about those things. The reason I'm sharing this, and because Ashley mentioned, is we have to talk about this stuff with our children. If we don't let our children know what is running predominantly in our family, various cancers, heart disease, diabetes, respiratory conditions, kidney diseases, if we don't let them know when these things happen to them, they think they're the only one in the family that it's happened to, because we don't pass that lineage of information on. Now, you don't have to go into the quick and dirty and all of that, but to just educate and say these things run of our family, pay attention. It will help the future generation to be able to make those appropriate choices based on the medical history of their lineage. My paternal grandfather had congestive heart failure and died from multiple strokes and having multiple heart attacks. My dad died of congestive heart failure and lived just a year longer than his dad. Okay. And his twin brother died 2 years later. Because these things were talked about, when they surfaced in the family, people waited to go to get the care. And because they waited so long to go to get the care, it circumvented the healing and extending their lives. By the time they went, they were so critical or chronic that they couldn't be saved. So these are things that we need to break these barriers and talk to our family, our children, educate them about what's going on in our families. It's not a bad thing. It's not something to be disgraced about. It's something to embrace, because you're educating your future generations. And even though my grandfather and my father lived 62, 63, 65 for my uncle, guess what? I'm educating the future generation so maybe they can live to 85, 95, because I plan on living to 110. So I'm just saying, so I want to educate people. Technology today, we can do it, but we have to talk about things, and we have to educate, and we have to stand in our power, ladies, because we are the most important people in our world. We are the most important people in our world. And when we come together collectively, can't no man do anything to us that we won't let be done. I'm just saying, they don't want to mess with us collectively. That's why they try to keep us separated. And I'm serious. So, all right, ladies. Okay, time for one more question. And let's make this one. If everyone watching could truly believe one powerful truth about her body and her worth, what would you want that truth to be? And so let's go ahead and start with you, Jasmine. Give us 30 seconds.
Yeah. I think that saying from the Bible that says, to thine own self be true. You know what I say to myself every day? I brought kids in the world. This body brought babies. We were built to house powerful people. So the men have to look back at it and says, you're powerful. So that's what I like to remind myself. We're powerful beyond means.
I love it. Kerry, what about you, girl?
That I'm healthiest when I spend 90% of my day in my right brain, compassion, creativity, intuition, nurturing. And then I have balanced hormones and I can process my emotions, and away we go.
I love it. Ashley, yes. What about you?
Listen, you were created, okay? Okay, you are royalty. You are beautiful. There's a reason why you're here, and you have a purpose and a plan. And so for you, there's a reason, and you are not waste. You are worth. You have worth.
Your
Love
power.
that. Love that.
Mm.
Okay, Karen, you bringing it home for us, girl.
In a world where there isn't a lot of truth, you can count on your body. It is telling you the truth every time. And know that if you ever wonder, am I doing enough? Just by taking care of yourself, you're healing your past lineage and you're helping your future lineage. And that is a ton. That is powerful. That is powerful. So what you're doing by taking care of yourself first, it goes a really long way.
Absolutely.
I love it. I love it. Thank you, ladies, so much for the fabulous conversation this evening. I love the dialogue and the wonderful words of wisdom that each and every one of you shared. You know, this conversation was not easy for us queens and us who recognize that we are queens and we are commanding our thrones. And I'm hoping that many more of you ladies out there have put on your crown and understand that you are a queen and you are commanding your throne. And it's time for you to step into your power and take control of your destiny when it comes to you. This conversation was absolutely necessary, and we need to have more conversations like this. Today, we name what so many of us have felt in silence: the fear, the anger, the grief, and the exhaustion of having to fight for control over our own bodies over and over and over again. But I want you to hear me clearly. Your body is not a battleground. It's not a political talking point. It's not a public property where you go and visit every now and then. Your body is sacred. Your life is sacred. Your choices, my queens, are sacred. To my beautiful and powerful panelists, thank you for your courage, your stories, and your truth. You reminded us that we are not crazy, we are not alone, and we are absolutely not powerless. And when we come together, there's no force on this earth that want to mess with women that come together in power, sincerity, and honesty. And to you, my beautiful queens watching, and those kings that are smart watching this episode as well, if something stirred inside of you, don't let it fade. Talk about it. Share this conversation with your sisters, your daughters, your friends, your mama, your grandmamas, and anyone that's willing to listen. Let them know that they are not alone either. Make sure you subscribe to the show so you don't miss what's coming next, because these conversations are just getting started for 2026. I am Dr. Rochelle Marie Lawson, your queen of feeling fabulous, and this has been the Bold, Unstoppable Show. Until next time, protect your body, honor your truth, and never apologize for owning your power. Ladies, go out and have a fabulous rest of the evening and kick ass in 2026, because we 5 have taken control of our power, and now we've got to pass the torch to those that we know are ready to shine brightly. Thank you, ladies, for your time. Have a beautiful evening, everyone. And until next time, goodbye for now.
Thank you.